Hello there, and welcome to The Sleepy Scholar. Tonight's journey takes us into the quiet, intricate world of relaxation itself. In this episode, you'll hear 100 sleepy facts about how your body and mind unwind, how certain nerves tell the heart to slow down, how light, sound, scent, and touch can signal that it is finally safe to rest, and why simple rituals can have such a deep calming power. These gentle explanations are here to keep you company as you drift towards sleep, at whatever pace your night decides. If you enjoy these quiet explorations, consider subscribing so you can easily return whenever you need a peaceful companion for the evening. For now, get comfortable. Let your eyes grow heavy. Let's begin. The human body possesses a dedicated system for tranquility, known as the parasympathetic nervous system. We live much of our lives in a state of alertness, a state governed by the fight or flight response, always ready to react. This sympathetic system is a marvelous tool for survival, but it demands energy and heightened awareness. Yet, it is only one half of a delicate ancient balance. An equally powerful counterpart waits patiently within us, a network designed not for action, but for peace. This is the parasympathetic nervous system, often called the rest and digest state. When this system takes the lead, the entire body begins to gently unwind. The heart rate slows, no longer needing to race. Breathing deepens, finding a more ancient and steady rhythm. Blood pressure eases, and digestion is encouraged to resume its quiet work. It is a physiological shift away from the external world and a turning inward toward restoration and repair. This is not simply an action. It is an active biological process of profound recovery. This gentle guardian works without our conscious command, a constant, loving presence, ensuring that after every effort, there is a path back to stillness. It is the body's own quiet promise that peace is always accessible, waiting just beneath the surface of the day's demands. Taking slow, deep breaths from the diaphragm can actively signal the body to relax. Breathing is the most fundamental rhythm of life, an act we perform thousands of times a day, often without a second thought. We tend to breathe from the chest, short, shallow sips of air that match the hurried pace of our thoughts. This very pattern, however, tells the brain that we are in a state of high alert, but we hold the key to change this state, using nothing more than the air around us and the muscles we were born with. When we consciously shift to diaphragmatic breathing, pulling air deep into the belly, we engage in a powerful conversation with our own nervous system. This slow, deep rhythm directly stimulates the vagus nerve, a long, wandering bundle of nerves that connects the brain to the heart, lungs, and gut. The vagus nerve is the primary highway of the parasympathetic rest and digest system. As it senses this slow, intentional breathing, it sends a clear message back to the brain. All is well. The brain, in response, dutifully dials down the stress response, releasing the body from its state of tension. It is a remarkable piece of biological design, a simple physical action that allows us to gently take the helm of our own internal sea. We are, in essence, breathing ourselves back into a state of calm, one quiet inhalation at a time. Gentle, repetitive rocking motions can induce a state of calm in both infants and adults. There is a primal comfort in gentle, rhythmic movement. It is one of the first soothing sensations we ever know, the feeling of being held and swayed. This association is not merely psychological. It is woven deeply into our neurological fabric. The comfort of the rocking chair on a quiet evening, or the gentle sway of a hammock, is not an accident. It is a return to a fundamental state of safety when the body experiences a slow, predictable rocking motion. It has a profound effect on the brain. This gentle oscillation helps to synchronize brain waves, encouraging the shift from active beta waves to the calmer, more restful alpha waves. Furthermore, this movement stimulates the vestibular system, the part of the inner ear responsible for balance. Calming this system has a direct, quieting effect on the entire nervous system, reducing feelings of agitation and promoting a sense of security. It is a physical lullaby, telling the brain that it is safe to let go. This ancient rhythm reminds us that we are supported, that we do not need to hold ourselves so rigidly. It is the earth's own cadence, the gentle rocking of the tide, and by joining it, we find a simple, profound path back to peace. Many people experience a relaxing tingling sensation, known as the Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response, or ASMR. In the quiet corners of the digital world, a new language of relaxation has emerged, built from the softest sounds, the gentle whisper, the crinkling of paper, or the slow tapping of fingertips has captivated millions. This phenomenon, once a nameless personal experience, has been given a title. ASMR. It is a testament to the intricate and subtle ways our bodies can find peace. ASMR is described as a pleasant, static-like tingling sensation that typically begins on the scalp and moves down the back of the neck and upper spine. It is triggered by specific auditory and visual stimuli. While the precise neurological mechanism is still being explored, research suggests it is a genuine physiological event. Brain scans of those who experience it show activity in regions associated with reward and emotion, similar to listening to music or engaging in mindfulness. It appears to be a unique blending of the senses, a gentle neurological caress that induces a state of deep, passive calm. This sensation is a quiet reminder of how deeply we are connected to the subtle stimuli of our world. It reveals that tranquility can be found not just in grand gestures, but in the most delicate and quiet of whispers. Listening to the sounds of nature, such as rain or flowing water, has a measurably restorative effect on the mind. Long before the hum of cities filled the air, the soundtrack of humanity was the wind in the trees, the call of a distant bird, and the rhythm of water. Our minds were shaped by this acoustic environment for millennia. It is no wonder then that returning to these sounds feels like a homecoming, a deep and instinctual form of rest. When we listen to natural sounds, our brains respond in a very specific way. Artificial, abrupt, and loud noises trigger the body's fight or flight response, a state of vigilance. In contrast, the gentle, fractal patterns of sound found in nature, like the ebb and flow of waves or the rustling of leaves, signal safety. These sounds are complex, but not overwhelming. Studies have shown that listening to them can decrease the body's stress hormones, lower the heart rate, and promote the parasympathetic rest and digest state. It is an auditory balm for an overstimulated mind. These ancient melodies of the earth do not demand our attention or require any effort. They simply wash over us, cleansing the mind of its anxious chatter and inviting it to rejoin the planet's own slow, peaceful rhythm. The hormone melatonin is produced by the brain in response to darkness, preparing the body for sleep. The rhythm of day and night is the oldest clock on Earth, and every living thing, including us, is set to its steady tempo. We are creatures of the sun, and our bodies have an intricate, internal orchestra that plays in harmony with its light. As the great light of the sun fades and the world softens into twilight, a quiet, chemical messenger begins its work within us. This messenger is melatonin, a hormone secreted by the pineal gland deep within the brain. Its production is a beautiful piece of natural engineering, suppressed by bright light and invited forth by darkness. As evening deepens, melatonin levels in the bloodstream begin to rise. It doesn't switch the body off like a light. Rather, it acts as a gentle night watchman, walking through the halls of the body and quietly telling all the systems that the time for rest is approaching. It reduces alertness, lowers body temperature slightly, and encourages the brain to transition into the architecture of sleep. This hormone is the body's own lullaby, a tangible link to the ancient cycles of the planet. It is the darkness itself, made manifest within us, offering a gentle permission to let go of the day and embrace the deep restoration of the night. A warm bath helps induce sleep, not just by relaxing muscles, but by managing the body's core temperature. There is a timeless, almost ritualistic comfort in sinking into warm water at the end of a long day. The immediate sensation is one of relief, as tension seems to melt away from muscles and the mind softens. This feeling of tranquility is not just an illusion. It is the beginning of a clever physiological sequence, a gentle trick we can play on our own biology to invite rest. Our bodies naturally follow a 24-hour cycle, where our core temperature dips slightly at night, signaling the brain that it is time to sleep. A warm bath, ideally taken about 90 minutes before bed, accelerates this process. While in the water, the heat brings blood to the surface of the skin, creating that pleasant, flushed feeling. But the real magic happens after we get out. As the water evaporates and the body is exposed to the cooler air, that built-up heat radiates away quickly, causing a more rapid and pronounced drop in core body temperature than would happen naturally. This sudden cooling mimics the body's own sleepy signal, effectively telling the brain that the sun has set and the restorative quiet of the night has truly begun. It is a simple act of physics, turned into a poetic invitation for slumber. The Japanese practice of Shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing, is a recognized method for reducing stress. In Japan, there is a practice that translates as forest bathing. It is not about exercise, hiking, or reaching a destination. It is simply the act of being present in a forest, of absorbing the quiet atmosphere through all the senses. It is a return to our oldest home, a place where the air itself seems to hold a gentle, healing power. This is more than just a pleasant walk. Scientific research has shown that spending time in a forest environment has profound, measurable benefits. Trees and plants release airborne chemicals called phytoncides, which are part of their natural defense system. When we breathe in this forest air, these compounds can lead to a decrease in stress hormones like cortisol, a lowering of blood pressure, and even a boost to the immune system. The fractal patterns of the leaves, the soft filtered light, and the earthy scents all combine to gently disengage the mind from its anxious, looping thoughts. Forest bathing is a quiet dialogue with the natural world, a reminder that we are part of something larger, slower, and infinitely more patient than our daily worries. It is a simple immersion, an act of allowing the wilderness to hold and heal us. The scent of lavender has been shown to interact with the brain to promote a state of calm. Scent is perhaps our most ancient and evocative sense, a direct pathway to memory and emotion that bypasses the rational mind. A single fragrance can transport us through time, or, as in the case of certain plants, transport us to a state of profound peace. Among these botanical calm bringers, lavender has reigned as a gentle queen for centuries, its soft, purple-grey scent synonymous with rest. This traditional wisdom is now supported by modern science. The relaxing properties of lavender are not merely a placebo effect. The primary compounds in lavender oil, such as linalool, interact with the brain's neurochemistry. When inhaled, these molecules bind to receptors in the brain, much like certain anti-anxiety medications, but in a far gentler way. They work to quiet the excitatory signals in the nervous system, effectively turning down the volume on mental chatter and agitation. It helps to soothe the fight or flight response and encourage the parasympathetic rest and digest state. This fragrant air is a quiet medicine, a gift from the earth that gently unties the knots of the mind. It is a simple, aromatic reminder that nature has already provided so many of the keys to our own tranquility. A technique called progressive muscle relaxation systematically releases physical tension stored in the body. Our bodies are quiet historians, diligently recording the stresses and efforts of our day in the language of physical tension. We often carry this tension without realizing it. A subtle tightening in the shoulders, a clenching in the jaw, or a stiffness in the hands. This physical armor, while protective, also keeps the nervous system in a state of high alert. Progressive muscle relaxation is a simple, methodical practice of letting go of this armor, one piece at a time. The technique involves consciously tensing a specific muscle group, for instance, the feet, holding that tension for a few seconds, and then completely releasing it. This simple act of contrasting tension with release does two remarkable things. First, it brings awareness to the muscle, re-establishing the mind-body connection. Second, and most importantly, the profound relaxation that follows the tensing is far deeper than what could be achieved by simply trying to relax. The practice moves slowly through the entire body, from toes to head, a systematic and guided surrender. It is a gentle inventory, a way of speaking to each part of the body and giving it explicit permission to be at ease. It is the conscious unwinding of the day, leaving a profound sense of stillness and physical peace in its wake. Mindfulness meditation can guide the brain into producing more alpha waves, which are associated with a state of wakeful rest. The mind is a river of thought, constantly flowing, planning, remembering, and anticipating. We can be tossed about in this current, carried from one worry to the next. Mindfulness meditation is not about stopping this river, which would be impossible, but about learning to sit calmly on the bank and simply watch it flow by. This act of gentle, non-judgmental observation has a direct and measurable effect on the brain's electrical activity. When we are active, focused, or anxious, our brains are dominated by fast-moving beta waves as we begin to practice mindfulness, letting thoughts come and go without grasping them. The brain's rhythm begins to slow. It shifts into the alpha wave state. Alpha waves are the brain's signature of wakeful rest. This is the state you are in when you are gazing quietly at a sunset or lost in a piece of music, a state of relaxed, effortless alertness. It is a bridge between the busy world and the inner world of deep calm. This simple practice of awareness is a gentle tuning of the mind, aligning it with a frequency of peace that is always present, waiting patiently beneath the noise of our daily thinking. Walking a labyrinth provides a form of moving meditation by simplifying choice. For thousands of years, humans have etched intricate, winding patterns into the earth and the floors of great cathedrals. These are not mazes designed to confuse or trap. They are labyrinths which feature a single, unambiguous path that leads from an entrance to a center and back out again. Their purpose is not to challenge the mind, but to free it. A maze is an analytical puzzle, full of dead ends and requiring constant decision-making. A labyrinth is the opposite. It is a journey of trust. As you place one foot in front of the other, you surrender the need to choose your direction. The path itself guides you. This simple physical act of following the winding route quiets the analytical part of the brain. It frees the mind to enter a more contemplative, flowing state. The repetitive motion, the focus on the simple journey, and the symbolic passage to a central point of reflection all combine to create a profound sense of calm. It is a beautiful metaphor for a peaceful life, not a life without twists and turns, but one where we trust the path we are on. The labyrinth teaches us that by simplifying our choices, we can find a deep and quiet center. The hormone oxytocin creates feelings of calm and safety and can be released by gentle, non-demanding touch. Beyond the complex systems of stress and arousal, our bodies have a parallel chemistry dedicated to connection, trust, and safety. This is the realm of oxytocin, a hormone often called the cuddle hormone or the love molecule. But its role is far more profound than just romance. It is the body's primary antidote to feelings of isolation and fear. Oxytocin is released by the brain during moments of positive social connection. This can be a hug from a loved one, the gentle touch of a friend, or even the act of petting a cherished animal. When this hormone flows, it acts as a powerful balm for the nervous system. It directly counteracts the effects of the stress hormone cortisol, lowering blood pressure and slowing the heart rate. It quiets the amygdala, the brain's alarm center, and fosters a deep internal sense of security, trust, and profound calm. It is the physiological all-clear signal. This gentle hormone is the voice of connection, reminding us on a cellular level that we are not alone. It is the chemistry of the safe harbor, the biological embodiment of comfort, and a quiet foundation for deep and lasting relaxation. A flow state is an experience of active, engaged relaxation, where the mind becomes fully absorbed in an activity. We often think of relaxation as a passive state, lying on a sofa or sitting in silence. But there is another, more active path to tranquility, a state of being so deeply immersed in an activity that the world seems to fall away. This is the flow state, a concept that describes the pinnacle of engaged, effortless attention. This state can be found in painting, gardening, playing music, or even the meticulous work of a craft. It occurs when a task is perfectly balanced, challenging enough to require our full attention, but not so difficult that it causes frustration. In this state, our sense of time becomes distorted. Hours can feel like minutes. The chatter of the conscious mind, the part that worries and plans, grows quiet. We are fully present, moving and acting with a sense of clarity and purpose. Neurologically, the brain is operating with supreme efficiency, a harmony of focus and ease. This is not the relaxation of disengagement, but the profound peace of complete absorption. It is the joy of a mind in perfect harmony with its task, a quiet, flowing river of focused, tranquil energy. Gentle stretching, as practiced in yoga, helps release tension by communicating with the body's internal sense of position. Our muscles do more than just move our bodies. They also hold our tension, bracing against perceived threats or the simple weight of the day. This chronic tightness can become a background noise we no longer notice until we are invited to let it go. Gentle, conscious stretching is a quiet conversation with our own physiology, a way of asking the muscles to stand down. This process works through a beautiful system called proprioception, our body's awareness of itself in space. Within our muscles and tendons are tiny sensors, like little messengers that report back to the nervous system about length and tension. When we perform a slow, gentle stretch, we are sending a deliberate, calming message to these sensors. We are signaling that the muscle is safe to lengthen, that the emergency is over. The nervous system responds by inhibiting the tighten command, allowing the muscle fibers to release and elongate, which in turn releases the stored physical and emotional tension. This is not an act of forcing, but of gentle invitation. Each slow stretch is an act of trust, reassuring the body that it is safe, supported, and allowed to return to its natural state of graceful, open ease. The Danish concept of hygge describes a form of relaxation based on creating an atmosphere of cozy contentment. Some cultures have a word for a feeling that is so deep and specific, it becomes a guide for living. In Denmark, that word is hygge. It is a term that defies direct translation, but it is, at its heart, the art of creating cozy, comfortable intimacy. It is a form of relaxation that is not found in solitude, but in a shared, warm, and gentle atmosphere. Hygge is the feeling of contentment and well-being that comes from enjoying the simple, good things in life. It is the soft glow of candlelight, the comfort of a warm wool blanket, the taste of a hot drink on a cold day, and the easy, quiet company of friends. It is a conscious rejection of stress and overstimulation, and a deliberate choice to create a sanctuary. This practice is not about material wealth, but about an appreciation for the sensory comforts that make us feel safe, warm, and connected to one another. This gentle philosophy is a reminder that relaxation is not just an internal state, but something we can build in the world around us. It is the comfort of the nest, a quiet celebration of simple, profound security. The simple act of writing down thoughts and worries before bed can help to quiet the mind. As the day ends and the world outside grows still, the mind can often become louder, replaying conversations, organizing lists, and revisiting worries. This internal chatter is a common barrier to rest, a sign of a brain that has not yet been given permission to let go of its responsibilities. Journaling, or the simple act of cognitive unloading, provides a physical and symbolic space for these thoughts to rest. When we write down our to-do list for the next day, or articulate the anxieties that are circling, we are effectively outsourcing our memory. We are placing these burdens onto the page, freeing the mind from the job of having to hold on to them. The brain, trusting that these thoughts are now safely stored, can release its vigilant grip. This externalization process clarifies thoughts, reduces the emotional charge of worries, and creates a tangible sense of closure on the day. The page becomes a quiet container, a patient listener that accepts everything without judgment. It is a simple, nightly ritual that allows the mind to empty itself, creating the spacious, peaceful stillness necessary for sleep to arrive. Gazing at objects that move in a slow, predictable, and gentle way can entrance the mind into a state of calm. Our attention is a powerful force, and in the modern world, it is constantly being pulled by things that are fast, bright, and demanding. We are conditioned for rapid response, yet we possess an ancient, almost hypnotic attraction to slow, graceful motion, a vestige of a time when our primary focus was on the natural world. When we allow our gaze to rest upon something like a slowly drifting mobile, the mesmerizing rise and fall of wax in a lava lamp, or even a leaf spiraling gently to the ground, we are giving our brain a profound gift. This type of visual stimulus is complex enough to hold our attention, but simple and predictable enough to be non-threatening. It does not require analysis or reaction. This soft fascination gently captures the mind, interrupting the cycle of anxious thoughts and luring the brain into a state of meditation. It is a visual lullaby that slows our internal tempo to match its own. This simple act of quiet observation is a form of visual anchoring, tethering our wandering thoughts to a point of simple, rhythmic beauty. It is a peaceful, silent assurance that not everything in the world is in a hurry. The psychological practice of savoring involves deliberately focusing on and extending a pleasant experience. Our lives are filled with small, fleeting moments of pleasure. The taste of a morning coffee, the warmth of the sun on our skin, the sound of a favorite song. Too often, we rush past these moments, our minds already on the next task. The practice of savoring is a gentle rebellion against this hurry, a conscious decision to pause and fully inhabit a moment of simple goodness. Savoring is an active, mindful process. It is not just about experiencing something pleasant, but about paying close attention to it. It involves noticing the sensory details, reflecting on the positive feelings, and even sharing the experience with others, or committing it to memory. This deliberate focus amplifies the positive emotions associated with the event, and in doing so, builds our internal reserves of calm and contentment. It teaches the brain to find joy not just in grand achievements, but in the texture of the everyday. It is a powerful antidote to the mind's natural tendency to focus on what is wrong or missing. By truly attending to a simple pleasure, we are magnifying its restorative power. We are teaching ourselves, moment by moment, how to find and hold on to the peace that is already present in our lives. Weighted blankets use the principle of deep touch pressure to create a sense of being held and secure. There is a profound, instinctual comfort in being held. It is a feeling of safety that is wired into our nervous system from birth, the reassuring sense of a firm, grounding presence. As adults, we can still access this deep-seated calm through a simple, therapeutic tool, the weighted blanket. This blanket's power lies in a principle called deep touch pressure. The gentle, evenly distributed weight, often between 10 and 25 pounds, or about 4.5 to 11 kilograms, simulates the feeling of a supportive embrace. This pressure sends signals to the nervous system, encouraging a shift from the fight or flight sympathetic state to the rest and digest parasympathetic state. Some researchers think that this kind of deep touch pressure may help the body release more of the feel-good chemical serotonin, which in turn supports the production of melatonin, the hormone that signals sleep. But the exact chemistry is still being studied. It is, in essence, a way of physically cocooning the body in a message of safety. The blanket becomes a quiet anchor, a passive guardian that holds us steady through the night. It is a simple, physical reassurance that we are grounded, secure, and free to let go. The concept of the afternoon rest, often known as the siesta, is rooted in the natural biological rhythms of the human body. In the heat of the day, particularly in warmer climates, there is a tradition of the world going quiet, shops close, shutters are drawn, and the streets empty as people retreat into the cool shadows for a period of rest. While often attributed to the heavy meal of the midday, this urge to pause is actually driven by the body's internal clock, our circadian rhythm. The internal cycle that governs our wakefulness and sleep naturally dips in the early afternoon, usually between 1 and 3 o'clock. This creates a window of lowered alertness and a physiological cue that it is time to conserve energy. Historically, This pause allowed laborers to avoid the harshest sun, but biologically, it serves as a brief reset for the brain. It is a moment where the biological drive for sleep momentarily reasserts itself, asking us to step off the treadmill of the day. The siesta is a respectful acknowledgement of this rhythm, a cultural agreement to honor the body's need for a quiet interlude before the evening begins. Some studies suggest that spending time in blue-toned environments can gently lower blood pressure and slow the heart rate, especially when compared with more stimulating colors like red. When we look out at the world, our eyes are constantly feeding information to the brain, and color is a powerful part of that language. For millennia, the human experience of blue has been associated with vast, non-threatening spaces, the clear, expansive sky and the calm, deep ocean. These are places of stillness and distance. Psychologically and physically, the body responds to this part of the spectrum with a cooling effect. Light in the blue wavelengths is less stimulating to the retina than the longer, more urgent wavelengths of red and orange. Studies suggest that exposure to blue light, or even simply being in a blue environment, triggers the parasympathetic nervous system. It encourages the body to drop its defenses. It is as if the mind, seeing the color of the horizon, understands that there is space to breathe, that the immediate dangers are far away. It is the visual frequency of tranquility, washing over the senses like a gentle, cooling tide. The simple act of humming creates internal vibrations that can actively stimulate the vagus nerve and promote relaxation. We often think of humming as a sign of contentment, a little melody we make when we are happy, but it is also a tool for self-soothing that works on a mechanical level. The vagus nerve, the great connector of the relaxation system, passes through the vocal cords on its way from the brain to the heart and lungs. When we hum, particularly at a low resonant pitch, we create a physical vibration in the throat and chest. This vibration acts as a gentle massage for the nerve fibers. This stimulation increases vagal tone, which improves the body's ability to switch off the stress response. It can slow down the heart rate and even increase the production of nitric oxide, a molecule that helps to relax blood vessels and improve circulation. It is a built-in mechanism for calm, a way of using our own voice, not to speak to the world, but to sing our own bodies back into a state of balance. The distinct earthy scent of rain hitting dry ground, known as petrichor, triggers a deep, instinctual calming response in humans. There is a specific moment just as a storm breaks, or when the first heavy drops fall on parched soil, when the air fills with a crisp, sweet, and musky aroma. This scent is older than civilization. It is created by a chemical called geosmin, produced by soil bacteria, and oils released by plants during dry periods. For our ancestors, this smell was a signal of survival. It meant that fresh water was coming, that the crops would grow, and that the heat would break. It was the scent of life renewing itself. Because of this ancient evolutionary connection, our brains are wired to respond to petrichor with a positive, settling feeling. It is a chemical signal that safety and abundance are on the way. Even today, removed from the immediate need to hunt or farm, we feel a sudden, quiet pleasure when that scent rises from the pavement or the fields. It is the perfume of the earth exhaling, inviting us to breathe deeply and find relief. Biofeedback technology allows individuals to learn how to consciously control involuntary bodily functions to reduce stress. We usually think of our heart rate, skin temperature, and muscle tension as things that run on autopilot, systems beyond our reach. Biofeedback changes this by acting as a mirror for the internal body. By using simple sensors that display these rhythms on a screen or through sound, a person can suddenly see their own stress response in real time. This visibility creates a feedback loop. If you can see your heart rate rising, you can test different ways to lower it, changing a thought, relaxing a shoulder, or slowing the breath, and watch the immediate result over time. The brain learns which internal levers to pull to steer the body toward calm. It turns the abstract concept of relaxing into a tangible, learnable skill. It empowers the mind to take the helm of the autonomic nervous system. It is a marriage of technology and biology that reveals a profound truth: that we are the pilots of our own vessel, capable of guiding ourselves through the stormiest seas back to smooth waters. The mineral magnesium plays a critical role in the regulation of the body's stress response system. Often called nature's tranquilizer, this humble element is found in the Earth's crust and in the dark, leafy greens of the garden. Inside the body, it is a busy worker, involved in hundreds of biochemical reactions, but its role in the nervous system is one of a quiet peacekeeper. Magnesium acts as a brake on the body's nervous stimulation. It occupies specific receptors in the brain, the NMDA receptors, that are responsible for excitement and stimulation. Without enough magnesium to sit in these seats, the brain can become hyperactive and prone to anxiety. Furthermore, magnesium is essential for the proper function of GABA, the primary neurotransmitter that calms the brain and slows down activity. It also helps to relax tight muscles, untying the physical knots of tension. It is a chemical foundation for stillness, a mineral anchor that helps hold the body and mind in a state of steady, resilient calm. It is the earth itself, dissolved in our cells, providing the stability we need to rest. For thousands of years, the root of the valerian plant has been used as a natural sedative to aid sleep and reduce anxiety. In the ancient medicinal gardens of Greece and Rome, and later in the monasteries of Europe, a tall flowering plant with sweet-scented pink blooms was prized above many others. But it was the root, with its strong, earthy odor, that held the power. Valerian root has been a companion to the restless for millennia. Modern science has begun to understand why this ancient remedy endures. The root contains compounds, such as valerianic acid, that appear to interact with the brain's GABA receptors. This is the same mechanism used by many modern anti-anxiety medications, but in a milder, plant-based form. By increasing the availability of GABA, valerian helps to dampen nerve activity and quiet the mental noise that prevents sleep. It is a gentle, botanical hand that pulls the curtains on the waking world. It stands as a testament to the long relationship between humanity and the plant kingdom, a reminder that the remedies for our restlessness have often been growing quietly in the soil beneath our feet. The low frequency of a cat's purr sits within a specific range that is known to promote healing and increase bone density. There are few sounds more synonymous with contentment than the rhythmic rumble of a cat. It is a sound that seems to vibrate through the air and into the person holding the animal. But this purr is more than just a sign of a happy pet. It is a biological marvel. Cats purr at a frequency between 20 and 140 Hz. Research into bioacoustics has suggested that vibrations in this frequency range may help with bone density and soft tissue repair. So some scientists think cats might even be using their purrs as a built-in healing tool. It is theorized that cats purr not only to self-soothe, but to actively repair their own bodies after the strain of hunting or while resting. For a human, being in contact with this vibration acts as a therapeutic stimulus. It lowers blood pressure and reduces the risk of heart disease. It is a living, breathing, healing engine, a creature that has evolved a way to vibrate at the frequency of repair. To hold a purring cat is to be invited into a circle of restorative energy. Looking at fractal patterns in nature has been shown to significantly reduce physiological stress levels. Nature is filled with a specific kind of geometry called fractals, patterns that repeat themselves at different scales. You see them in the branching of trees, the veins of a leaf, the jagged line of a coast, or the fluff of a cloud. These patterns are complex, yet they possess a certain order that the human eye finds deeply soothing. This phenomenon is known as fractal fluency. Our visual systems evolved in nature, surrounded by these structures, and so our brains process them with incredible ease and efficiency when we look at the harsh straight lines of modern architecture. The brain has to work harder. But when the gaze rests on the fractal patterns of a forest or a river, the brain's electrical activity shifts. Alpha waves, associated with a state of wakeful relaxation, increase. It is a visual sigh of relief. The eye traces the familiar, repeating rhythms of the natural world, and the mind follows, settling into a state of effortless attention and profound aesthetic peace. Yoga Nidra is a guided practice that induces a state of consciousness between waking and sleeping. Often translated as yogic sleep, this ancient practice is not about movement or stretching, but about a profound, systematic withdrawal of the senses. The practitioner lies completely still, while a voice guides them through a specific sequence of awareness, moving focus through different parts of the body, observing the breath, and visualizing images. The goal is to bring the body into a state of deep sleep, while the mind remains awake and alert. In this borderline state, the brain produces delta waves, the slow, restorative electrical pulses usually found only in the deepest, dreamless sleep. It is a state of suspended animation, where the body can devote all its energy to repair and restoration, free from the demands of movement or reaction. A session of Yoga Nidra can feel like hours of deep slumber condensed into a short period. It is a journey into the twilight zone of consciousness, a place of absolute stillness where the mind can rest in its own quiet center, floating effortlessly between the worlds of day and night. The spectrum of sound known as pink noise mimics the frequency distribution found in nature and is often more soothing than white noise. We are familiar with white noise, the static hiss of a detuned radio, which contains all frequencies at equal intensity. It can be effective, but for some, it is too harsh. Pink noise is different. It also contains all audible frequencies, but the power decreases as the pitch gets higher. This creates a deeper, richer, and softer sound. Remarkably, this balance of energy, more bass, less treble, mirrors the acoustic profile of the natural world. It is the mathematical signature of rustling leaves, steady rain, or the wind through a forest. Because our brains are tuned to these environmental sounds, pink noise feels organic and safe. It masks distracting sudden noises like a car door slamming or a dog barking, without being intrusive itself. By smoothing out the acoustic landscape, it allows the brain to lower its guard. It acts as a sonic blanket, wrapping the listener in a steady, consistent hum that mimics the ancient, comforting soundtrack of the earth. Ancient Greeks built vast healing complexes called Asclepions that were dedicated to the therapeutic power of dream sleep. In the ancient world, Rest was not just a biological necessity, it was a divine conduit. The Asclepions were sprawling sanctuaries set in beautiful, natural locations, dedicated to Asclepius, the god of healing. Pilgrims who were ill or distressed would travel for miles to reach them. After purifying rituals and baths, they would enter a structure called the abaton, or enkoimeterion, a dormitory for sacred sleep. Here, they would lie down in the dark, surrounded by the quiet hum of the temple, to practice incubation. The goal was to sleep and receive a visit from the god in a dream, who would either heal them directly or reveal a cure. This practice acknowledged the profound healing potential of the subconscious mind and the restorative power of deep, ritualized rest. It was a holistic approach that combined the beauty of nature, the power of suggestion, and the mystery of sleep. These temples were monuments to the idea that in our most vulnerable state, sleep, we are closest to being whole. The facial feedback hypothesis suggests that the physical act of relaxing facial muscles can send a signal of safety back to the brain. We typically assume that our facial expressions are merely the result of our emotions. We smile because we are happy, or frown because we are stressed. However, the road runs both ways. The brain constantly monitors the tension in the facial muscles to interpret how we are feeling. When we hold tension in the jaw or furrow the brow, we are physically reinforcing a message of stress to our own nervous system. Conversely, when we consciously soften the eyes, release the jaw, and let the tongue drop from the roof of the mouth, we interrupt that loop. This physical release sends a retrograde signal to the emotional centers of the brain, indicating that there is no immediate threat. It is a way of hacking our own emotional state through the body. By wearing the mask of peace, a smooth brow, and a relaxed mouth, we can invite the actual feeling of peace to follow. It is a quiet physical truth. Sometimes we must soften the outside to help calm the inside. Contact with a specific bacterium found in healthy soil has been shown to stimulate the release of serotonin in the brain. Gardeners have long spoken of the therapeutic nature of digging in the earth, attributing it to the fresh air or the satisfaction of growing things. But science has uncovered a microscopic ally in the soil itself. A harmless bacterium called Mycobacterium vaccae lives naturally in the dirt. When we garden, we inhale microscopic particles of this bacterium, or absorb it through small breaks in the skin. Once in the system, it triggers an immune response that leads to the release of serotonin in parts of the brain that regulate mood. Serotonin is a key neurotransmitter for feelings of well-being and calm. In a fascinating twist, the very earth we walk on contains a natural antidepressant. This suggests that our connection to the land is not just poetic, but chemical. We evolved in close contact with the soil, and our bodies seem to expect this interaction to maintain a balanced mood. The simple act of getting one's hands dirty is a biological reunion, a grounding practice that literally lifts the spirit. A fresh layer of snow absorbs sound waves, creating a profound and measurable acoustic silence. There is a unique, hushed quality to the world after a heavy snowfall, a silence that feels thick and almost tangible. This is not just the absence of traffic or human activity. It is a physical change in the atmosphere. Snowflakes are intricate, porous structures, six-sided crystals filled with open spaces. When they pile up, they form a fluffy, low-density material that is approximately 90 to 95% trapped air. This structure acts as an incredible acoustic insulator. Sound waves, instead of bouncing off hard surfaces like pavement or frozen ground, become trapped within the deep, complex maze of ice crystals. The energy of the noise is absorbed and dampened, effectively muting the landscape. The sharper the frequencies, the more they are softened. This creates a sonic blanket over the world, turning the sharp clatter of daily life into a distant, muffled whisper. It is nature's own soundproofing, a rare and beautiful phenomenon that forces the world to lower its voice, inviting us into a space of introspection and wintry peace. Floating in a sensory deprivation tank removes external stimuli to allow the nervous system to completely reset. Our senses are constantly at work, processing light, sound, gravity, and temperature. This continuous stream of data requires a significant amount of brain power to manage. The practice of flotation therapy, or REST, restricted environmental stimulation therapy, offers a radical break from this workload. The individual lies in a tank filled with water, heated to exact skin temperature and saturated with Epsom salts, making the body effortlessly buoyant. In the pitch black and silence, the boundaries between the body and the water seem to dissolve. With no gravity to fight, the muscles can fully relax. With no sight or sound to process, the brain's sensory cortices quiet down. The brain often shifts into a theta wave state, usually accessible only in deep meditation or the moments before sleep. It is a return to a womb-like void. In this suspension, the nervous system, freed from its duties of monitoring the world, can turn its resources entirely inward, fostering a state of deep, weightless, and rejuvenating calm. The Dutch concept of Niksen promotes the deliberate practice of doing nothing as a way to combat burnout. In a world that prizes productivity and constant engagement, the idea of doing absolutely nothing can feel uncomfortable, even wrong. But the Dutch philosophy of Niksen challenges this constant drive. It is not meditation, which requires focus. It is not mindfulness, which requires awareness. Niksen is simply the art of idling. It is staring out of a window, watching the clouds, or sitting in a chair with no purpose. It is purposelessness with a purpose. When we allow the mind to wander without a goal, we activate the brain's default mode network. Far from being inactive, this network is crucial for connecting ideas, solving problems in the background, and restoring mental energy. It allows the brain to organize itself. By giving ourselves permission to simply be without doing, we release the pressure of performance. It is a mental unclenching, a recognition that the engine cannot run at full speed forever. Niksen is the wisdom of the pause, the fertile ground of silence from which creativity and energy can eventually grow again. Consciously warming the hands is a biofeedback technique that can trigger the body's relaxation response. Stress has a thermal signature. When the fight or flight system is activated, the body redirects blood flow away from the extremities, the hands and feet, and toward the major muscles and vital organs. This is why cold hands are often a physical symptom of anxiety. We can reverse engineer this process by sitting quietly and focusing intently on the sensation of warmth in the hands, perhaps by visualizing them holding a warm cup or resting in the sun. We can encourage vasodilation. This is the widening of the blood vessels. As the vessels in the hands open up and blood flow returns, the skin temperature rises. This physical shift sends a signal back to the brain that the danger has passed. It is a stand-down order for the sympathetic nervous system. The simple affirmation, "My hands are warm and heavy," repeated with focus, acts as a physiological key. It unlocks the tension in the circulatory system, allowing warmth to spread from the fingertips inward, bringing with it a wave of systemic calm. The tradition of drinking warm milk before bed is linked to the soothing properties of the amino acid tryptophan. For generations, a warm cup of milk has been a bedtime staple, a grandmother's remedy for a restless child. While the warmth and the ritual itself provide a psychological comfort, there is a chemical basis to this tradition. Milk contains tryptophan, an essential amino acid that the body cannot produce on its own. Tryptophan is a crucial building block for serotonin, a neurotransmitter that stabilizes mood, and melatonin, the hormone that regulates sleep cycles. While the amount of tryptophan in a single cup is relatively small, the combination of the warm liquid and the carbohydrates, often from a little honey or the lactose in the milk, helps the tryptophan cross the blood-brain barrier. Once there, it can begin its work of synthesis. Beyond the chemistry, the association with childhood care and the physical sensation of warmth in the stomach triggers a feeling of satiety and safety. It is a simple, nourishing act that signals the end of the day's hunger and the beginning of the night's rest. Creating or coloring mandalas focuses attention in a way that induces a meditative and centering state. The mandala, a Sanskrit word for circle, is a geometric configuration of symbols with a center point. While they have spiritual roots in Hinduism and Buddhism, the act of creating or coloring these symmetrical patterns has a profound secular effect on the mind. The psychologist Carl Jung believed that mandalas were a representation of the self, and that creating them helped to bring order to the psyche. The process relies on repetition and symmetry. As the hand moves to fill in the intricate, predictable shapes, the mind is drawn into a narrow focus. It is a form of active meditation. The repetitive motion soothes the nervous system, while the containment of the circle provides a psychological boundary, a safe space for the mind to rest. The chaos of the outside world is replaced by the order of the pattern. It engages both the logical brain, following the structure, and the creative brain, choosing the colors, bringing the two hemispheres into a harmonious balance. It is a quiet, colorful journey to the center of one's own stillness. A power nap of roughly 20 minutes is effective because it clears fatigue without triggering sleep inertia. The brain operates on a chemical economy, and one of its primary currencies is a molecule called adenosine. As we go about our day, thinking and moving, adenosine slowly accumulates in the brain, creating the sensation of sleep pressure or the urge to rest. It is like sand filling the bottom of an hourglass. A short nap acts as a quick way to flip the glass. However, timing is everything. If we sleep for longer than 20 minutes, the brain risks descending into slow-wave deep sleep. Waking from that deep state creates grogginess, a feeling of being lost in the fog. But a short, 20-minute pause is just enough time for the brain to clear away a significant amount of adenosine, lifting the heavy weight of drowsiness. It is a biological refresh button, a brief, shallow dive into the waters of rest that allows us to surface with a renewed sense of clarity and alertness, without the heavy anchor of deep sleep dragging behind us. The human eye perceives the color green with less strain than any other color in the visible spectrum. In the center of our visual field, the lens of the eye focuses light onto the retina. Different wavelengths of light require the lens to adjust its shape to focus them clearly. Red and blue light require the eye to work harder to bring them into sharpness. Our visual system is especially sensitive to green wavelengths, likely because we evolved surrounded by leaves and grass. Many people find that looking at greenery feels naturally restful, as if the eyes don't have to work quite as hard. This is likely an evolutionary adaptation, born from millions of years of living in lush, verdant environments where spotting shelter or food in the foliage was essential. When we look at a forest canopy or a rolling field, our eyes are physically at rest. The nervous system interprets this visual ease as safety. It is why the green room is a place of waiting and calm for performers. To look at green is to give the muscles of the eye a moment of stillness, a visual signal that the environment is hospitable and soft. Applying gentle pressure to the eyelids can lower the heart rate through the oculocardiac reflex. The body is full of hidden switches that control our physiology, and one of the most fascinating is located just behind the eyes. This phenomenon, sometimes known as the Ajna reflex, connects the eyes directly to the vagus nerve, the main highway of the parasympathetic nervous system. When gentle, sustained pressure is applied to the eyeballs, such as when we instinctively rub our eyes when tired or wear a weighted eye mask, a signal is sent down this nerve to the sinoatrial node of the heart. This signal acts as a brake, physically slowing the rhythm of the heartbeats. It is a vestige of an amphibious past, a reflex designed to conserve oxygen when submerged. But for us, it serves as a biological soothing mechanism. It explains the deep comfort of a heavy sleep mask, or the feeling of resting a warm hand over the face. It is a literal press to calm button, a physical intervention that tells the racing heart to slow its pace and match the stillness of the mind. The Norwegian concept of slow TV uses real-time, unedited footage of long journeys to induce relaxation. In a media landscape defined by rapid cuts, high drama, and short attention spans, there is a rebellious movement toward the mundane. It began with a 7-hour broadcast of a train journey across Norway, filmed from a single camera, showing every mile of track, every tunnel, and every snowy vista in real time. Nothing dramatic happened. There was no narrative arc. And yet, millions watched. This format, known as slow TV, works because it demands nothing from the viewer. It matches the pacing of actual life. Watching a fire burn down to embers, or a boat slowly navigating a fjord, allows the brain to synchronize with a natural, unhurried rhythm. It engages a form of passive attention that is deeply restorative. It is a window into a world where time is not compressed or hurried, but allowed to unfold at its own majestic, steady pace. It is a reminder that the world usually moves slowly, and that there is a profound peace in simply watching the scenery go by. Old books release a scent containing lignin and vanillin, which triggers a sense of comfort known as biblical. There is a specific, beloved atmosphere found in second-hand bookstores and quiet libraries, a scent that many find intoxicatingly peaceful. This aroma is not accidental. It is the chemistry of time. As the paper, ink, and binding adhesives of books age, the organic compounds within them begin to break down. Lignin, a polymer found in wood pulp, degrades over years and releases volatile compounds. One of these is vanillin, the primary component of vanilla extract, along with notes of almond and sweet grass. This creates a complex, dusty, and sweet perfume. For many, this scent is associative, linked to quiet afternoons, the safety of a reading nook, or the slow absorption of knowledge. Breathing in this scent is breathing in the history of the object. It is a sensory anchor to a slower form of entertainment, a smell that wraps the reader in a blanket of nostalgia and quiet focus. It is the perfume of patience, a chemical signal that suggests it is time to sit down and be still. Experiencing the emotion of awe can physically lower the levels of inflammation in the body. We often think of emotions as purely mental states, but they have a direct footprint in our biology. Awe is that feeling of being in the presence of something vast and transcending. A sky full of stars, the edge of a massive canyon, or the intricate detail of a spider's web. Psychological research has shown that frequent experiences of awe are linked to lower levels of cytokines, which are markers of inflammation associated with stress and illness. When we stand before something that makes us feel small, our self-focus diminishes. The ego, with all its worries and daily anxieties, shrinks in comparison to the vastness before us. This psychological unselfing calms the nervous system. The brain stops ruminating on the trivial and opens up to the present moment. It seems that realizing we are a tiny part of a magnificent whole is not frightening, but deeply healing. The body recognizes the majesty of the universe and responds by quieting its own internal fires. Rhythmic, repetitive crafts like knitting create a state of relaxation similar to meditation. There is a reason that handiwork has been a staple of domestic life for centuries, beyond the need for clothing. The rhythmic, repetitive motion of the hands, looping yarn, pulling thread, or weaving, induces a specific neurological state. This has been called the relaxation response. The focus required to count stitches or maintain a pattern is just enough to occupy the busy, anxious part of the brain, preventing it from worrying, but not so difficult that it causes stress. It is a Goldilocks level of attention. As the hands find their rhythm, the heart rate slows and blood pressure drops. The repetition becomes a mantra made of movement. Furthermore, the tactile sensation of the soft wool or fabric adds a sensory layer of comfort. The result is a tangible object, but the true product is the peace of mind achieved during the process. It is a way of knitting calmness into the very fabric of time, one loop at a time. Wearing warm socks to bed helps induce sleep by promoting vasodilation in the feet. It seems contradictory that warming the feet would help cool the body, but the mechanics of sleep rely on a drop in core temperature. The hands and feet act as the body's radiators. They are rich in blood vessels located close to the skin surface. When we wear warm socks, these blood vessels open wide, a process called vasodilation. This opening allows more blood to flow to the extremities, where it releases its heat into the air or into the cooler bedding. This release of heat from the periphery draws heat away from the core of the body, effectively lowering the internal temperature. This drop is the biological green light for the brain to release melatonin and initiate sleep. So the cozy feeling of warm socks is not just about comfort. It is about opening the thermal gates. It is a simple biohack that works with the body's natural thermodynamics, gently ushering the system into the cool, quiet state necessary for deep slumber. Binaural beats create an auditory illusion that can encourage the brain to synchronize with slower, relaxing wave frequencies. The brain is an electrical organ, humming with the frequency of its own activity. We can invite it to change this tune through a clever auditory trick. When a tone of one frequency, say 300 Hz, is played in the left ear, and a slightly different tone, say 310 Hz, is played in the right ear, the brain does not hear two separate sounds. Instead, it processes the difference between them. It perceives a rhythmic pulse of 10 Hz. This third, phantom sound is the binaural beat. Remarkable, the brain then tends to align its own electrical activity with this pulse, a process called frequency following response. By choosing specific frequencies, we can guide the brain from the high alert beta state down to the relaxed alpha or dreamy theta states. It is a way of tuning the mind like an instrument. Without any conscious effort, the listener can use these phantom rhythms to gently lead their own consciousness down a staircase of sound, moving from the noise of the day into the deep basement of rest. The flower chamomile contains an antioxidant called apigenin that binds to receptors in the brain to initiate sleep. For centuries, the small, daisy-like flower of the chamomile plant has been steeped in hot water to create a potion for sleep. It is one of the world's oldest medicinal herbs. While the ritual of tea drinking is soothing in itself, the plant possesses a specific chemical key. That key is apigenin, a bioactive compound found in abundance in the dried flowers. When consumed, apigenin travels through the bloodstream to the brain, where it seeks out the same receptors that are targeted by prescription anti-anxiety drugs. The benzodiazepine receptors, however, apigenin binds to them more gently. It modulates the activity of the nervous system, reducing anxiety and initiating a mild sedative effect. It does not knock the system out. It simply suggests that it is time to power down. It is a gentle chemical handshake between the plant kingdom and the human mind. This golden tea is liquid evidence of nature's ability to provide for our rest, a floral lullaby that has been sung for thousands of years. The physiological sigh is a breathing pattern of 2 inhales, followed by 1 exhale that rapidly reduces stress. Our lungs are not just 2 big bags of air. They are filled with millions of tiny, balloon-like sacs called alveoli. These sacs are where oxygen enters the blood and carbon dioxide leaves. When we are stressed or breathing shallowly, these tiny balloons can collapse and deflate, leading to a buildup of carbon dioxide in the blood, which triggers an alarm signal in the brain. The physiological sigh is the body's mechanical fix for this. It involves a double inhale, a long breath in, followed immediately by a second, shorter sip of air on top, and then a long, slow exhale. The second inhale pops those collapsed alveoli back open, maximizing the surface area of the lungs. The long exhale then offloads a massive amount of carbon dioxide. This pattern is often seen in sobbing children or sleeping animals as they settle. Doing it voluntarily sends a powerful, immediate signal to the brain to reset the stress barometer. It is a way of physically ventilating the nervous system, blowing away the pressure of the moment. Watching fish swim in an aquarium has been proven to lower blood pressure and heart rate. There is a reason that fish tanks are a staple in waiting rooms and dentist offices. The aquarium effect is a recognized phenomenon where the mere act of observing aquatic life induces a state of calm. It combines several relaxing elements: the soft, bluish lighting, the gentle, bubbling sound of the filter, and most importantly, the movement of the fish. Fish do not move with the jerky, hurried pace of land animals. They glide, they float. Their movement is 3-dimensional and fluid, governed by the density of the water. Tracking this smooth, unhurried motion engages the eyes and the mind in a way that is hypnotic but non-demanding. Studies have shown that the more biodiversity in the tank, the greater the reduction in the viewer's pulse rate. It acts as a portal to a silent, weightless world. It allows the landlocked human mind to drift in the currents, borrowing the slow, graceful tempo of life underwater to quiet the racing thoughts of life on dry land. Yawning helps to cool the brain, promoting a transition in mental state. We often stifle yawns, seeing them as a sign of boredom or rudeness, but the yawn is a crucial physiological function. It is a radiator for the mind. The brain is a metabolic engine that generates a significant amount of heat. When it runs too hot, efficiency drops and alertness wavers. A yawn is a complex motor act that involves a deep inhalation of cool air and the stretching of the jaw muscles. This stretching increases blood flow to the skull, while the cool air chills the blood vessels in the mouth and nose. This cooler blood then circulates up to the brain, effectively dropping its thermal temperature. This thermal reset is why we often yawn when we are tired, transitioning to sleep, or when we wake up, transitioning to alertness. It is the body shifting gears. By cooling the neural engine, the yawn prepares the brain for a change in state. It is a refreshing gust of wind through the house of the mind, clearing the stagnant air and preparing us for the next phase of our cycle, be it sleep or action. The pastime of cloud gazing relies on pareidolia, the mind's tendency to find meaningful shapes in random patterns. Lying on the grass and looking up at the sky is a quintessential image of leisure, but this simple act engages a very specific and soothing cognitive process. The human brain is a pattern-matching machine, always desperate to make sense of the world. Pareidolia is the phenomenon where we see faces, animals, or castles in the random fluff of a cumulus cloud. When we cloud gaze, we are letting this pattern-matching software run in screensaver mode. There is no right or wrong answer, no threat to identify, and no problem to solve. We are simply drifting. The eyes are focused on distant objects, which relaxes the ciliary muscles, while the mind plays a gentle game of association. The slow, morphing movement of the clouds means that no shape is permanent. We must constantly let go of one image to find the next. This encourages a fluid, flexible state of mind. It is a practice of soft focus, a way of untethering the imagination and letting it float as freely as the vapor above. Box breathing is a technique used by elite tactical teams to regain control of the autonomic nervous system. It is surprising to think that the same technique used by Navy SEALs to stay calm in high-stakes situations is also a perfect tool for bedtime. The method is geometry, applied to breath. It involves 4 equal parts: inhaling for a count of 4, holding the air in for a count of 4, exhaling for a count of 4, and holding the lungs empty for a count of 4. This creates a perfect box of time. This rhythmic structure forces the mind to focus on counting, diverting attention from spiraling thoughts. Physiologically, the holding phases allow carbon dioxide to build up slightly in the blood, which can enhance the urge to breathe response and actually stimulate the vagus nerve. When the exhale finally comes, it imposes a rigid mechanical rhythm on the body, overriding the erratic, shallow breathing of stress. It is a way of building a fortress of calm, one breath at a time, creating a predictable, safe structure in which the mind can settle. The golden hour of sunlight contains a spectrum of red and orange light that is less disruptive to sleep hormones. Photographers prize the hour before sunset for its soft, warm, and flattering light. But this light is also beautiful to our biology. As the sun sits lower on the horizon, its light must travel through a thicker layer of the Earth's atmosphere to reach us. This journey scatters the shorter blue wavelengths, the ones that signal wake up to the brain, leaving behind the longer, softer red and orange wavelengths. This shift in color temperature is a natural planetary dimmer switch. Evolution has tuned our circadian rhythms to interpret this warm, low-angle light as the signal to begin winding down. Unlike the harsh, blue-white light of midday or our electronic screens, the golden hour does not suppress melatonin production as aggressively. Watching the sunset is not just a romantic cliché. It is a way of synchronizing our internal clock with the rotation of the planet. It is a visual dose of tranquility, a gentle fade-out that prepares the body for the coming darkness. Walking barefoot on natural surfaces like grass or sand offers a rich sensory texture that grounds the mind. We spend most of our lives with our feet encased in shoes, walking on flat, hard, artificial floors. This numbs one of our primary sensory interfaces. The soles of the feet are packed with nerve endings, designed to read the texture of the terrain when we take off our shoes and walk on soft grass, cool moss, or shifting sand. We wake up these dormant sensors. This flood of tactile information forces the brain to come down from the abstract clouds of worry and inhabit the physical body. We have to pay attention to where we step. The unevenness of the ground requires micro-adjustments in the ankles and legs, engaging the vestibular system. This physical engagement is grounding in the most literal sense. It connects us to the earth. The variety of textures, the tickle of grass, the grain of sand, provides a gentle massage for the nervous system, a reminder that the world is tangible, detailed, and supportive beneath our feet. Reading fiction for just 6 minutes has been shown to reduce stress levels by more than 2/3. Opening a book is often seen as an escape, but it is also a form of high-level neurological empathy. When we read a narrative, our brains simulate the experiences of the characters. If a character runs, the motor cortex lights up. If they smell a rose, the olfactory centers flicker. We are effectively running a simulation of another life. This absorption creates a state of deep reading, which is a trance-like state. A study at the University of Sussex found that reading for as little as 6 minutes slowed the heart rate and eased muscle tension more effectively than listening to music or taking a walk. By stepping into the shoes of another, we step out of our own looping worries. The brain cannot fully sustain the narrative of the book and the narrative of our own stress simultaneously. It chooses the story. It is a portable sanctuary, a way to pause our own reality and rest in the imagination of another. The Japanese concept of ma celebrates the empty space between things as a necessary part of the whole. In the West, we often view silence or empty space as a lack of something, a void that needs to be filled with sound or objects. In Japanese aesthetics and philosophy, this void is called ma, and it is treasured as an entity in itself. Ma is the silence between the notes of music that gives the rhythm its shape. It is the white space on a page of calligraphy that gives the ink its power. It is the pause in a conversation that allows understanding to sink in. Ma teaches us that the pause is not just an absence of activity, but a potent, pregnant space where life happens. It is the breath of the world without the space. There is only clutter and noise. By consciously appreciating the gaps, the quiet moments in a day, the bare wall in a room, the silence after a bell rings, we create room for the mind to expand. We learn to rest, not just in the doing, but in the spaces between the doing. Pandiculation is the involuntary stretching and yawning behavior seen in animals to reset their muscles after rest. We have all seen a cat or dog wake up. They extend their front paws, arch their back, and indulge in a long, trembling stretch, often accompanied by a yawn. This is not just stretching, it is pandiculation. Unlike passive stretching, where you pull a muscle to length, pandiculation involves a voluntary contraction of the muscle, followed by a slow, controlled release. This action wakes up the connection between the brain and the muscles. When animals and humans sleep, the brain's map of the muscles can get a little fuzzy. Pandiculation resets the resting tone of the muscles, reminding the nervous system of their proper length and tension. It effectively clears the stiffness of sleep. It is a reboot for the motor system. Humans do this instinctively in the morning. That urge to throw the arms wide and yawn. It is nature's way of preparing the body for movement, a pleasurable, whole-body recalibration that sheds the stillness of sleep and prepares us to move with grace. The morning chorus of birdsong is an evolutionary signal that indicates safety to the human brain. For our ancestors, the world was a dangerous place, full of predators that hunted under the cover of darkness or silence. The singing of birds was a reliable alarm system. When the birds were singing, it meant that no hawks, snakes, or large cats were disturbing the environment. Silence, on the other hand, was often a sign of impending danger, a hush that fell when a predator was near. Over hundreds of thousands of years, the sound of the dawn chorus, the collective singing of birds at sunrise, became imprinted on the human amygdala as a green light. Today, even when we are safe in our homes, hearing the cheerful, complex melodies of birds triggers a deep subconscious release of tension. It tells the primitive parts of our brain that the coast is clear, the night has survived, and the world is proceeding as it should. It is nature's original all-clear siren, a musical assurance that allows us to lower our guard and relax. A specific shade of pink, known as Baker-Miller pink, has been observed to physically weaken muscle strength and reduce aggression. In the late 1970s, researchers discovered that color could have a profound, immediate impact on the endocrine system. They found that when a person stared at a large field of a specific bubblegum pink hue, their physical strength would drop, and feelings of anger would dissipate within minutes. It is thought that this color acts as a tranquilizer by suppressing the secretion of norepinephrine, a stress hormone that maintains the body's alertness and muscle tone. Even if a person tries to be angry or aggressive, the color seems to drain the energy required to sustain that emotion. It is a visual sedative. While the effect may be temporary, it reveals the strange and direct link between our visual environment and our physical capability. It suggests that softness is not just a texture, but a frequency of light, capable of disarming us gently and inviting the body to surrender its fight. The sound of wind rustling through the trees has a specific name, psithyrism, and a unique acoustic profile that soothes the mind. There are words in the English language that sound like what they describe, and psithyrism comes from the Greek word for whispering. This sound is distinct from white noise because it is dynamic. It rises and falls with the breath of the wind, changing pitch as it moves through pine needles or broad oak leaves. This variability is key. A constant, droning noise can be ignored by the brain, but the gentle, unpredictable swelling of the wind keeps the auditory cortex softly engaged without demanding focus. It is a form of pink noise, balancing high and low frequencies in a way that mimics the rhythms of the human heart and breath. Listening to this ancient whisper connects us to the movement of the air itself. It is the voice of the forest, a gentle, hushing sound that seems to say hush to the worries of the human world, replacing them with the vast, breathing presence of the trees. Watching a crackling fire can induce a trance-like state that significantly lowers blood pressure. For nearly 1 million years, the hearth was the center of human life. It was the source of warmth, the place of cooking, and the only light in the darkness. We gathered around it for safety and community. This long history has left a mark on our biology. Research has shown that sitting in front of a fire, particularly one with a fluctuating flame and the sound of crackling wood, causes an immediate drop in arterial blood pressure. The longer one sits, the greater the relaxation effect. This is likely due to flicker fusion, where the dancing light captures our attention in a passive, absorbing way, similar to a mild hypnosis. The fire provides a focal point that anchors the group and the individual. It is a primal television, broadcasting a program of warmth and survival. To stare into the flames is to return to the oldest living room on Earth, feeling the ancient comfort of having conquered the cold. Reciting poetry or repeating a mantra can slow the breathing to a rhythm that synchronizes with the heart. In many traditions, from the recitation of the rosary to the chanting of yoga mantras, there is a specific cadence to the speech. Scientific analysis has found that these rhythmic recitations often naturally fall into a pattern of about 6 breaths per minute. This specific frequency is magic for the human body. It is the resonant frequency of the baroreflex, the system that regulates blood pressure. When we breathe at this rate, roughly 10 seconds per cycle, the heart rate rhythm begins to lock in step with the breath, a phenomenon called cardiorespiratory coherence. The fluctuations in heart rate become smooth and wave-like, rather than jagged and erratic. This coherence sends a powerful signal of balance to the brain, reducing stress hormones and increasing mental clarity. It turns the act of speaking into a biological tuning fork. Whether it is a Sanskrit prayer or a line of soft poetry, the rhythm itself becomes a vessel for peace, aligning the body's internal metronome. Working with clay offers a tactile, grounding experience that connects the hands directly to the earth. There is a unique satisfaction in handling clay that goes beyond simple creativity. The material is heavy, cool, and responsive. It demands a certain amount of physical force to mold, yet it yields to gentle pressure. This combination engages the haptic or touch-based feedback loops in the brain. Our hands are massively represented in the brain's somatosensory cortex. They are our primary way of manipulating the world. When we sink our fingers into a dense, earthly material like clay, we are saturating these sensors with a grounding stimulus. It pulls our awareness out of the abstract, digital world and anchors it in the physical reality of the here and now. The wet earthen smell and the resistance of the mud trigger a primitive sense of productivity and connection to the soil. It is a silent, shaping dialogue between the maker and the earth, a reminder that we can change the shape of things with patience and a gentle touch. The act of holding hands can synchronize brainwaves and reduce the perception of physical pain. Touch is a language of reassurance, and holding hands is one of its most eloquent phrases. When a person in pain or distress holds the hand of a loved one, their breathing and heart rates often begin to synchronize. But the connection goes deeper. Brain scans have shown that their brainwave patterns also start to couple, moving into a shared rhythm. This interpersonal synchronization acts as a powerful analgesic. The presence of the partner, communicated through the palm, signals safety and support, which causes the brain to downgrade the threat level of the pain. It releases oxytocin and dopamine, natural painkillers. It is as if the burden of the suffering is being shared across the neural networks of two people, lightening the load for the one who is hurting. This simple clasping of fingers is a bridge of empathy, a physical link that says, "You are not alone in this," allowing the body to relax into the strength of another. Stargazing induces a cognitive shift known as the overview effect from the ground, shrinking earthly worries. Astronauts often report a profound shift in consciousness when seeing the Earth from space, a feeling of awe and interconnectedness. We can access a quiet version of this by simply looking up on a clear, dark night, When the eyes adjust to the darkness and the vast canopy of stars reveals itself, the sense of scale is overwhelming. The distances, light years, parsecs, galaxies, are so immense that the human mind cannot truly grasp them. In the face of this infinity, our daily stresses, deadlines, and anxieties suddenly appear microscopic. This is not a feeling of insignificance, but of liberation. The ego is relieved of its self-importance. We realize we are part of a majestic, clockwork universe that has been turning for billions of years. This cosmic perspective acts as a mental palate cleanser, washing away the trivial grit of the day and replacing it with a cool, spacious sense of wonder and timeless peace. The scent of vanilla is almost universally perceived as pleasant and relaxing, and one theory suggests this is because its main aroma molecule, vanillin, resembles scents present around early feeding and care in infancy. Scent is subjective. What smells good to one person may be unpleasant to another. However, vanilla is an exception. It is consistently rated as relaxing across different cultures. The explanation may lie in our very first meals. Breast milk shares similar chemical compounds with vanillin, the primary component of the vanilla bean. Because of this, the scent is deeply, subconsciously associated with the ultimate feelings of nourishment, warmth, and safety experienced in infancy. It triggers a memory of being held and fed. Even for those who are not breastfed, vanilla is a standard note in baby formulas and comfort foods, reinforcing the link between the smell and the sensation of care. When we light a vanilla candle or bake with the extract, we are filling the air with a chemical signal of unconditional love. It is a sweet, olfactory hug that bypasses the rational mind and comforts the inner child. The biophilia hypothesis suggests that humans have an innate genetic tendency to seek connections with nature. In the 1980s, the biologist E.O. Wilson proposed that our love for life and living systems is not just a preference, but a biological need. We evolved on the savannas, in the forests, and by the rivers. For millions of years, our survival depended on noticing the details of the natural world, the ripeness of a fruit, the turn of the seasons, the behavior of animals. Because of this, our brains are hardwired to feel correct when we are surrounded by life. When we are placed in sterile concrete environments, we experience a low-level background stress, a feeling of being a fish out of water. But when we bring nature back, a potted plant, a view of a garden, or a walk in the park, the brain recognizes its home. The tension drops. We are creatures of the biosphere, and we find our deepest rest when we are in the company of the green, growing, and living world that made us. Isochronic tones are a sound therapy technique using single, distinct pulses to guide brainwave activity. Unlike binaural beats, which require headphones to create an illusion of a pulse, isochronic tones are actual, audible pulses of sound. They turn on and off in a precise, rhythmic pattern. It is a very sharp, clear beat, like a metronome for the brain. This distinct on-off pattern is highly effective at engaging the brain's frequency-following response. If you listen to tones pulsing at 10 Hz, your brain will naturally tend to align its own electrical activity to that alpha frequency, the state of relaxed alertness. Because the pulses are so distinct, the brain creates a strong electrical response to each beat, making entrainment easier for some people than other methods. It is a form of auditory driving. You can close your eyes and let the rhythmic thrumming of the sound gently nudge your consciousness out of the frantic beta waves of stress and down into the slow rhythmic tides of deep relaxation. The consumption of comfort foods like soup is often linked to a social surrogate effect, providing a sense of belonging. We often crave specific foods when we are stressed or lonely, often warm, soft, savory dishes like chicken soup or mashed potatoes. Psychologists have found that these cravings are not just about calories or salt. They are about relationships. Comfort foods are typically dishes that we associate with being cared for in childhood, meals that were prepared for us by loved ones. Eating them triggers the memory of that care. This phenomenon is called the social surrogate effect. The food stands in for the person. The warmth of the bowl and the familiar taste activate the same psychological pathways as a hug or a kind word. It reduces feelings of isolation and increases feelings of belonging. It is a culinary time machine, transporting us back to a table where we felt safe and loved. The relaxation comes not just from the digestion, but from the emotional nourishment of the memory. Hypnagogia is the transitional state of consciousness between wakefulness and sleep, often filled with dreamlike imagery. There is a twilight zone in the mind, a borderland we cross every night called the hypnagogic state. It is that brief, magical window where the logical rules of the waking world begin to dissolve. But the immersive hallucinations of true dreaming haven't quite taken over. In this state, we might hear a voice, see a flash of geometric color, or have a sudden, brilliant idea. The brain is shifting from alpha waves to theta waves. It is a state of loose associations and fluid creativity. Famous thinkers like Thomas Edison and Salvador Dali prize this state, using techniques to wake themselves up just as they drifted into it, to capture its insights. For the rest of us, it is a playground of the mind. Recognizing this state can be deeply relaxing. It is a sign that the ego is letting go. It is the sensation of the mind untethering itself, drifting gently into the abstract, colorful waters of the subconscious. Caring for houseplants has been shown to reduce physiological stress through a bacteria-free nurturing effect. While we know that soil bacteria can be beneficial, the simple act of caring for a plant, even in a sterile hydroculture, has a calming impact. It gives us a low-stakes responsibility. A plant needs us, but it does not demand immediate attention like a pet or a child. It is a quiet, slow-motion relationship. Studies show that people who spend a few minutes touching and tending to plants show lower blood pressure and reduced anxiety compared to those who complete computer tasks. It channels our natural instinct to nurture. Seeing a new leaf unfurl or a flower bud provides a gentle dopamine reward, a sense of progress and life. The greenery itself is visually soothing, but the act of care, wiping a leaf, checking the soil, is a meditation on patience. It reminds us that growth takes time, and that there is beauty in simply waiting and watching something thrive under our protection. Contagious yawning is linked to empathy and social bonding, signaling a shared state of rest. When we see someone yawn, or even read the word yawn, as you might be doing now, we often feel the irresistible urge to do the same. This mimicry is not a flaw. It is a feature of a highly social brain. Contagious yawning is most common among species that live in close-knit groups, like humans, chimpanzees, and dogs. It is thought to be a mechanism for synchronizing the group's behavior. If one member is tired and preparing to rest, the yawn spreads the signal, encouraging the whole tribe to settle down together. It aligns the sleep cycles of the group. Neuroimaging suggests that the more empathetic a person is, the more likely they are to catch a yawn. So sharing a yawn with a partner or a friend is a sign of your connection. It is a silent, communal agreement to lower the energy, a ripple of relaxation spreading from one person to another. The mammalian diving reflex can be triggered by splashing cold water on the face to instantly reset the nervous system. We share a hidden superpower with whales, seals, and dolphins. It is a survival mechanism called the diving reflex. When cold water hits the area around the nostrils and eyes, the brain assumes we are submerged. To preserve oxygen for the vital organs, it instantly triggers a series of physiological changes. The heart rate slows down dramatically. Sometimes by 10 to 25% blood vessels in the extremities constrict, centering the blood flow. This reflex overrides our current emotional state. If you are feeling panicked, hot, or overwhelmed, splashing ice-cold water on your face for 30 seconds is a biological circuit breaker. It forces the body to shift from high arousal chaos to a state of conservation and calm. It is a shocking but effective way to use our evolutionary history to snap the body out of stress and into a slower, cooler rhythm. Trataka, or candle gazing, is a yogic purification practice that cleanses the eyes and quiets the mind. In a world of constantly moving screens and shifting focus, our eyes rarely stay still. Trataka is the antidote. It involves staring at a single point, usually the flame of a candle, without blinking, until the eyes water. This unblinking gaze forces the restless muscles of the eyes to stabilize. Because the eyes and the mind are linked, when the gaze becomes fixed and steady, the internal dialogue begins to cease. The flame itself is an ideal object of focus, bright, living, yet silent. The tearing that eventually occurs is seen as a physical release of heat and tension. After the practice, the eyes are closed, and the after image of the flame is visualized at the center of the forehead. This moves the focus from the external world to the internal world. It is a practice of burning away the visual clutter of the day, leaving behind a clear, illuminated silence. The chanting of the syllable Om creates a vibration in the skull that stimulates the vagus nerve. The sound Om is more than just a spiritual symbol. It is a physical tool. When chanted correctly, it is not spoken from the throat, but vibrated from the belly up into the nasal cavity and the roof of the mouth. This creates a distinct physical buzzing sensation in the head. This vibration stimulates the auricular branch of the vagus nerve, which meanders through the ear and jaw. As we explored earlier, stimulating this nerve is the fastest way to activate the parasympathetic relaxation system. Furthermore, the long, slow exhalation required to sustain the note forces the breath into a calming rhythm. The sound itself acts as an internal massage for the nervous system. It effectively tunes the body like an instrument, using the physics of resonance to shake loose the tension held in the jaw and face, replacing it with a steady, grounding hum. The Japanese tea ceremony, or chado, turns the simple act of making tea into a meditation on the present moment. In the tea ceremony, nothing is done casually. Every movement, the folding of the cloth, the whisking of the matcha, the turning of the bowl, is choreographed and performed with total attention. It is often said, ichigo ichi, meaning one time, one meeting. This specific moment, this specific gathering, will never happen again in exactly the same way. This philosophy transforms the ceremony into a practice of extreme mindfulness. The host is not thinking about the future or the past, but is entirely devoted to the perfection of the now. The guest, in turn, focuses entirely on receiving the tea, noticing the warmth of the bowl and the taste of the bitter green foam. It is a ritual that elevates the mundane to the sacred. By slowing down a simple task and performing it with reverence, the mind is cleared of clutter, finding a profound peace in the beauty of a single, fleeting action. Positive, constructive daydreaming is a specific type of mind-wandering that boosts creativity and relaxation. We are often told to focus, that a wandering mind is an unhappy mind, but psychologists distinguish between the anxious looping of worry and the playful, free-flowing state of positive daydreaming. This is the act of deliberately letting the mind drift to pleasant, hopeful scenarios, imagining a future vacation, a dream home, or a whimsical story. This mental vacation allows the brain's executive control center to rest. It disengages from the rigid task-positive network and floats into the imaginative default mode network. Unlike checking a phone, which is passive consumption, daydreaming is active creation. It refreshes the mind's resources. It is a self-generated sanctuary, a reminder that we possess an internal virtual reality simulator that can transport us to a sunny beach or a quiet forest at any moment, free of charge, providing a brief but restorative holiday for the psyche. The glymphatic system is a recently discovered waste clearance pathway that only opens up when we sleep. For centuries, the question of why we sleep was a biological mystery. We knew we needed it, but we didn't know exactly what the brain was doing during those dark hours. We now know that the brain has a dedicated night shift cleaning crew. During the day, our brain cells are packed tightly together, processing information. But when we drift into deep sleep, the space between these cells physically expands by up to 60%. This opening allows cerebrospinal fluid to flow rapidly through the brain tissue, washing away the toxic waste proteins that have built up during waking hours. It is like a tide washing over a beach, smoothing away the footprints of the day. This process, known as the glymphatic system, explains why we wake up feeling mentally refreshed. It is a nightly, microscopic shower for the mind, a biological assurance that rest is not just idleness, but a period of profound purification and renewal. Switching to panoramic vision is a physiological trigger that tells the nervous system to relax. In our modern lives, we spend most of our time in foveal vision, a state of intense, narrow focus. We stare at screens, books, and roads, locking our eyes on a small central point. This kind of vision is linked to the sympathetic nervous system. It is the vision of the hunter or the prey, looking for danger or a target. However, we can consciously choose to soften our gaze. By expanding our awareness to the periphery, taking in the ceiling, the walls, and the floor all at once without focusing on any single object, we engage panoramic vision. This wide-angle view is the vision of the grazing animal, the state of being safe in an open field. Physiologically, this shift signals the amygdala that there is no immediate threat. It mechanically releases tension in the eye muscles and sends a wave of calm to the brain, reminding us that the world is wide and we are safe within it. The air near moving water, such as waterfalls or the ocean, contains more tiny negative ions, and some research suggests that breathing this air may gently lift mood and increase feelings of clarity for some people. We often feel a sudden sense of clarity and energy when we stand near the crashing waves of the sea or the mist of a waterfall. This is not just the beauty of the scene. It is the electricity of the air. The force of falling or splashing water shears electrons off of air molecules, creating negative ions. These invisible charged particles are inhaled into our lungs and absorbed into the bloodstream. Once inside, they are believed to increase the flow of oxygen to the brain, and boost the levels of serotonin, the neurotransmitter responsible for feeling happy and calm. It is a form of atmospheric vitamin. The air in our homes and offices is often stagnant and depleted, but the air by the water is alive and active. It is a reminder that the Earth's energy is constantly renewing itself, and simply breathing it in can help to rebalance our own internal charge. Sleeping in a hammock can help people fall asleep faster and achieve a deeper sleep state than a stationary bed. There is a reason sailors and infants have often slept in swinging beds. A study by Swiss researchers found that the gentle, rocking motion of a hammock affects the brain's electrical activity. The swaying motion, which occurs at a low frequency, facilitates the transition from wakefulness to sleep. It essentially rocks the brainwaves into a synchronized rhythm. Furthermore, the study showed that the duration of stage N2 sleep, a crucial phase of light sleep, was increased, and the number of micro-awakenings was reduced. The hammock acts as a sensory cocoon, providing a vestibular rhythm that mimics the safety of the womb or the comfort of being carried. It creates a physical relationship with gravity that is fluid rather than rigid. By surrendering to the sway, we allow the body to align with a pendulum of peace, swinging gently between the waking world and the world of dreams. The acupressure point, known as yin tang, located between the eyebrows, is a traditional switch for calming the mind. In the map of the body used by traditional Chinese medicine, there is a point right in the center of the forehead, often called the third eye. Physically, this area holds a great deal of tension. We often furrow this brow when we are concentrating or worried, applying gentle, steady pressure to this spot with a thumb or forefinger for a minute or two can have a surprising effect. It is said to calm the Shen, or spirit, physiologically. This area is rich in nerve endings that connect to the trigeminal nerve. Stimulating it helps to release the tension held in the facial mask, which, as we know from the facial feedback hypothesis, sends a signal of relief to the brain. It acts as a physical pause button. By touching this center of focus, we are physically interrupting the furrow of worry and inviting a smoothness to return to the forehead and the mind. The ideal ambient temperature for sleep is surprisingly cool, typically around 65 degrees Fahrenheit or 18 degrees Celsius. We often associate comfort with warmth, bundling up in heavy clothes and heating our homes. However, for the specific biological process of sleep, the body needs to cool down. Our circadian rhythm dictates a drop in core body temperature to initiate and maintain sleep. If the room is too warm, this natural cooling process is blocked, leading to restless, fragmented sleep. A cool room acts as a thermal ally, helping the body radiate its heat away. It allows us to snuggle under heavy blankets, which provide the comfort of weight and security without overheating. The contrast between the cool air on the face and the warmth of the bedding creates a sensory nest that feels deeply protective. It is a reminder that we are creatures of the environment, and that aligning our personal climate with the natural drop of the evening temperature is the surest path to a long, restful night. Listening to a slow, steady heartbeat is one of the most primal and universally soothing sounds for humans. Before we knew the sound of the wind or music, or even our mother's voice, we knew the sound of her heart. For 9 months, it was the rhythmic soundtrack of our existence, a constant, steady drumbeat that meant life and safety. This association is burned into our deepest memory. This is why holding a baby against the left side of the chest soothes them, and why a ticking clock wrapped in a towel can comfort a puppy. Even for adults, listening to a recording of a slow heartbeat resting an head on a partner's chest, triggers an instinctual regression to that state of absolute security. It lowers our own heart rate through a process of entrainment. It is the original lullaby, a biological rhythm that tells us, on a cellular level, that we are not alone and that life is continuing steadily. Silence is not just a lack of noise. In animal studies, periods of quiet have been linked to the growth of new cells in the hippocampus, the brain's center for memory and emotion. We live in a noisy world, a constant soundscape of traffic, media, and conversation. We often think of silence as empty, but biologically, it is a fertilizer. A study on mice looking at the effects of different sounds found that when the subjects were exposed to 2 hours of silence per day, they developed new cells in the hippocampus. This is the region of the brain associated with memory, emotion, and learning. The absence of auditory input seems to allow the brain to shift resources from processing to growth. Silence acts as a restorative space where the brain can repair and expand its own infrastructure. It suggests that quiet is not just a luxury, but a nutrient. By carving out moments of absolute hush, we are not just resting the ears, we are literally gardening the mind, allowing new connections to sprout in the stillness. The hop plant, Humulus lupulus, has been used for centuries in pillows to promote drowsiness. While hops are most famous for their role in brewing beer, their history as a sleep aid is equally rich. Folklore tells of farm workers falling asleep in the hop fields during harvest, overcome by the potent aroma of the flowers. This was not just exhaustion, it was chemistry. The resins in the hop flower contain a substance called methylbutanol, which acts as a mild sedative. In the past, suffering royals and commoners alike would sleep on hop pillows, small sachets filled with the dried flowers as the head rests on the pillow. The body heat releases the volatile oils, creating a cloud of sedative scent. It is a form of aromatherapy that works through direct inhalation. The scent is earthy, bitter, and deeply grounding. It is a reminder that nature provides specific tools for our rest, hiding powerful relaxation in the humble, papery cones of a climbing vine. The simple childhood action of blowing bubbles requires a breathing pattern that calms the nervous system. We think of blowing bubbles as a trivial game for toddlers, but the mechanics of the act are a perfect stress relief exercise. To create a large, shimmering bubble that doesn't pop immediately, you cannot blow hard or fast. You must blow gently, steadily, and for a long duration. This requires a long, controlled exhalation. As we have learned, lengthening the exhale is the golden key to the parasympathetic nervous system. It slows the heart rate. When we blow bubbles, we are effectively practicing a breathing exercise disguised as play. Furthermore, the visual aspect, watching the iridescent sphere float, drift, and eventually vanish, engages the eyes in soft fascination. It is a fleeting moment of beauty that demands nothing from us. It turns the act of breath control into a visible, floating art, reminding us that our worries, too, are temporary and will eventually pop and disappear. Sleeping on the left side encourages digestion and supports the heart's natural anatomy. The position in which we lie down is not just a matter of comfort, it is a matter of gravity. The human stomach is shaped like a curved pouch. When we sleep on our left side, the stomach hangs naturally, keeping the gastric juices contained and allowing gravity to help move food through the digestive tract. This reduces heartburn and discomfort. Furthermore, the aorta, the largest artery in the body, loops out of the top of the heart and arches to the left. Sleeping on this side assists the heart in pumping blood downhill to the rest of the body. It is a way of working with the body's asymmetry. By simply choosing a side, we are aligning ourselves with the internal rivers of our own biology, removing resistance and allowing the body's nightly maintenance work to flow as smoothly and effortlessly as possible. Sleeping on the left side encourages digestion by working with the natural shape of the stomach, and some experts think this position may also work gently with the way the heart and its main artery curve through the chest. The old advice to count sheep is often too boring to hold the mind's attention, or too much like a math problem, causing the brain to stay awake out of irritation. A better strategy is imagery distraction. This involves visualizing a pleasant, familiar journey in rich detail, perhaps a walk through a childhood home, a hike down a favorite trail, or a stroll along a quiet beach. The key is to engage all the senses in the imagination, seeing the color of the leaves, feeling the crunch of gravel underfoot, smelling the salt air. This cognitive task occupies the brain's visual and spatial centers, which prevents them from being used for worry or planning. It is a gentle, mental, virtual reality. It leads the mind away from the cliff edge of anxiety and down a safe, well-worn path, walking step by step until the scenery fades naturally into the landscape of dreams. Gentle stretching of the neck helps to release the tension triangle where stress physically accumulates. When we are under pressure, our shoulders tend to rise toward our ears, a primitive reflex to protect the neck from attack. Over time, this creates a tension triangle, connecting the shoulders and the base of the skull. This is significant because the vagus nerve exits the skull right in this area. Chronic tightness here can physically impinge on the nerve's ability to signal relaxation. Slowly tilting the head to the side, bringing the ear toward the shoulder, and breathing into the stretch manually opens this gateway. It sends a signal to the trapezius and sternocleidomastoid muscles to lengthen and let go. The physical sensation of release in the neck often triggers an immediate sigh of relief. It is a mechanical unblocking of the body's relaxation highway, a way of physically lowering the shoulders and, with them, the weight of the world. Gazing at the horizon of the ocean creates a sense of safety due to the lack of visual obstacles. Humans are visual creatures who evolved in environments where seeing far meant being safe. A cluttered environment, full of bushes and corners, meant that a predator could be hiding nearby. The ocean horizon is the ultimate open field. It is a flat, unbroken line where the sky meets the water. When we look at it, our brain instantly registers that there are no hidden threats, no surprises, and no demands. This landscape of nothingness allows the surveillance systems of the brain to stand down. The rhythmic motion of the waves adds a hypnotic element, but the flatness of the horizon is the foundation of the calm. It is a vista of pure potential and vastness. To look at it is to stare into eternity, a space so big that it absorbs our small, finite worries and leaves us with a sense of spacious peace. The scent of sun-dried linen comes from the chemical reaction of sunlight breaking down compounds in the fabric. There is a specific, bright freshness to sheets that have been dried on a line in the sun, a smell that is almost impossible to replicate artificially. This laundry on the line scent is the result of photolysis. The ultraviolet rays of the sun hit the wet fabric and create trace amounts of hydrogen peroxide and other oxidative compounds, which kill bacteria and bleach the fibers. We are smelling cleanliness itself, along with the fresh air trapped in the weave. But beyond the chemistry, this scent is deeply nostalgic. It is associated with domestic care, with fresh starts, and with the comfort of a made bed. Crawling into sun-dried sheets is a sensory experience of purity. It wraps the body in the memory of the sun and the wind, a crisp, clean embrace that signals the end of the day's labor and the beginning of rest. The fetal position is the most common sleeping posture and offers a psychological sense of physical protection. Roughly 40% of people naturally curl up on their sides to sleep, knees pull toward the chest. This is the fetal position. It is the first position we ever knew, the posture of the womb. But it also serves a function in the adult world. By curving the spine and tucking the limbs, we are physically protecting our vital organs, the heart, stomach, and lungs, which are located on the soft front of the torso. This closing up reduces our physical vulnerability. Psychologically, this creates a sense of containment. When we feel exposed or stressed by the waking world, returning to this ball-like shape offers a subconscious feeling of security. It is a way of turning inward, physically barring the door to the outside world, and holding our own warmth and life force safely in the center. Moonlight provides a low level of illumination that human eyes are adapted to navigate without waking fully. Before electricity, the moon was our only lantern in the night. The light of a full moon is roughly 400,000 times fainter than the sun. Our eyes have two types of receptors, cones for color and bright light, and rods for low light and motion. Moonlight is the domain of the rods. This silvery, monochromatic light allows us to see the shape of the world without triggering the wakefulness signals that bright color would send to the brain. It is a gentle, passive illumination. It casts the world in a dreamlike, desaturated palette of grays and silvers. Being in moonlight connects us to the nocturnal rhythms of the planet. It is a light that reveals the mystery of the world rather than its details, a soft, celestial glow that watches over the sleeping earth without disturbing its rest. The act of gentle hair brushing triggers a primal grooming response that lowers stress hormones. In the animal kingdom, grooming is a primary way of bonding and reducing tension within the pack. When one primate grooms another, it is an act of trust and care. We retain this biological memory. The sensation of a brush moving rhythmically through the hair, or the fingers of a loved one massaging the scalp, stimulates nerve endings that are connected to the release of oxytocin. It creates a sensation called affective touch. This is touch that is not for identifying an object, but for communicating emotion. It lowers the heart rate and reduces cortisol levels. It is a repetitive, soothing motion that feels like being preened and cared for. It is a simple, domestic ritual that serves as a bridge between people. A tactile language that says, "You are safe, you are clean, and you are loved." Rhythmic chewing, such as chewing gum, can reduce cortisol levels and increase blood flow to the brain. It seems too simple to be true, but the act of chewing has a calming effect on the mind. Studies have shown that the repetitive motion of the jaw can lower the levels of the stress hormone cortisol in the saliva. One theory is that this is an evolutionary signal. In the wild, an animal would not be eating if it were being chased by a predator. Therefore, the act of chewing signals to the brain that the environment is safe and there is food available. It is a rest and digest signal. Additionally, the movement increases blood flow to the brain, improving focus and clarity. While we shouldn't eat a full meal right before bed, this mechanism explains why a warm, small snack can be settling. It is a rhythmic, muscular assurance that our basic needs are met and we are secure. Sleep is a universal biological imperative shared by almost every animal species, from fruit flies to whales. As we close our eyes tonight, we are joining a massive planetary wave of rest. We are not alone in this need. The tiny fruit fly takes naps. The massive elephant sleeps for short bursts. The octopus changes color while it dreams. Even the jellyfish, which has no brain, enters a sleep-like state. This universality tells us that sleep is not a weakness or a waste of time. It is a fundamental law of life, as essential as gravity. It is the time when biology repairs itself, when memories are cemented, and when energy is restored. By giving into sleep, we are not checking out of life. We are participating in its most ancient and vital rhythm. We are obeying the gentle command that governs all living things. It is the great unifying pause that allows life to continue. And so, our journey through the quiet, restorative world of relaxation comes to a gentle close. We have traveled through the landscapes of the mind and the geography of the body. We have looked at the chemistry of a yawn, the geometry of a snowflake, and the ancient history of a lullaby. We have seen that relaxation is not simply the absence of work, but a rich, active state of renewal. It is a world of deep breaths, soft sounds, and gentle rhythms. A world that is always waiting for us, just beneath the surface of the noise. From the cells that clean our brains while we dream to the distant horizon that calms our eyes, the universe seems designed to offer us rest, if only we take the time to accept it. If you happen to still be awake, that's perfectly all right. You can simply lie back, let the music keep flowing in the background, and drift in and out of the story at your own pace. The facts will always be here, waiting for you. But if your eyes are heavy and the pull of the pillow is strong, let the stories of calm and the gentle music carry you softly into rest. Trust the wisdom of your body and the ancient universal rhythm of the night. Sleep well. Good night.